Yeah, can you put a one in the chat, please, if you can see it? Love it. And our chat is working. So, as Sarah shared, I'll be talking about developing leaders from within, coaching skills to boost team success. I have a tight 20 minutes. I just set my timer, so I'm excited for us to dive in. I'd love to learn a bit very quickly about who's here. If you feel comfortable, please share your name, your pronouns, and your favorite question in the chat box for us. We're going to be doing lots of coaching and learning about coaching today, lots of questions. So I'd love to learn what your favorite question is. And while you're going, I will share my favorite question, which is what makes you fabulous. It's one of my favorite questions. It often stumps people. And today, you're going to be learning more about how to ask powerful questions, how to coach people. Ooh, Coco, what is your why? Such a lovely question. I love that. Riley, what is your favorite? Oh, form of potato. That is a great question. April, how would you explain your job to a 5-year-old? I do a lot of career coaching, so I love that question. Ooh, Julia, what is your favorite fun fact? Sarah, I've never heard that question. What is an uninteresting fact about you? These are amazing questions. Amber, favorite musical artist? These are some good questions. I love this. So we're going to be learning lots about questions today. Before we dive in, I have a quick quiz that we're going to do. If you feel like the answer is true, you're going to put a T in the chat. If you think it's false, you're going to put an F. There are right or wrong answers, but we're not being graded here. And actually, research shows, I can find the research for you, um, that if you take a pre-quiz before learning material, even if you get all the answers wrong, you're more likely to retain the information that you're about to learn. So the first question is coaching coach-driven or employer-driven? T for true or F for false? False, 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 false. Love, oh my gosh, we have a great group. Love it. Okay. Any topic is appropriate for a coaching session. T for true, F for false. Oh my goodness, this chat is blowing up. I love it. Wow, lots of Fs. Our next question, ORS stands for Organic and Rich Starbucks. More Fs. Wow, love this. All people should be coached the exact same way. F's. I see Riley shaking her head. Oh, Latrice is a no. Yeah, a lot of falses. This one, we'll see. Kyle and JV are Six Flags annual pass holders. Ooh, there's a mix. True, false, true, probably true, question mark. Smiley face. Okay, we're going to dive in. I'm Kyle. Thank you, Sarah, for the introduction. So, a little bit about me. I'm a career coach. I help people get unstuck. Most often, I work with individuals or organizations who are feeling a bit stuck, either in their career or it's an organization who needs help with communication, some clarity, some conflict issues. When I'm not doing that, you'll find me learning. This is my partner, JV, and I on the far left. Our pandemic hobbies were learning. I got a doctorate in adult education, and then JV's like, I'm bored on Sundays when you're writing all day. So he got a master's, and we went to University of North Dakota online. And this is when we flew there for graduation. We are Disneyland annual pass holders, not Six Flags. So this is us in the middle. We travel down there about once a month. We moved actually from San Francisco to Santa Barbara in California. So from Northern California to Southern California to be closer to Disneyland. And we take my parents every year. And then we love traveling. This was us going on a helicopter tour. And you will notice it's not a helicopter. I misread. And it was a teeny 3-person plane we took through Oregon to look at the waterfalls. So when I am not coaching people, doing workshops and trainings, here's how you'll see me spending time. So I'd love to dive in. Here's our learning objectives for today. We're going to learn some coaching strategies specifically for advanced prevention specialists, for behavioral health folks. My doctor was actually in mental health, so I was so excited to be here today and how to apply these coaching strategies to work-life balance, self-care, resilience. And then we're going to develop communication and conflict resolution skills that you can apply as well. I'll share the link in the chat, but part of this conversation came as a result of this article that I wrote. So we're not going to be able to dive into everything. I have about 15 minutes left, but we're going to dive into some of this and some skills that you can apply to work. There's going to be a case study today, and you can start applying this. So these are skills you can apply one-on-one with people and as an organization. So here's what we're going to briefly cover today. What's coaching? What are some skills you can quickly apply and mistakes to avoid? I specifically did an EDD instead of a PhD for my doctorate, which really focused on its application. So I want you to leave today with skills you can literally start applying today at work, or it's Friday, so maybe on Monday, some skills that you'll start applying. So this is the definition of coaching from the International Coaching Federation. I added the bold and the underline, but it's really partnering with clients. So everyone who put false earlier, it's not you leading that coaching conversation. It's not you telling someone what to do, but it's partnering with an individual. It's inspiring them. And through this process, there's often additional imagination, productivity, and leadership that happens. And coaching is different. It's not mentoring. It's not someone who's maybe more experienced in the field telling you what to do. It's not consulting. It's not advice giving. That's a huge mistake we're going to dive into. And it's not therapy. Sometimes it can feel like therapy, but that's not what it is. So as we go through today, I want you to keep those in mind. And here's some of the many situations coaching can be used. It can be used for career development. It can be used for confidence building, motivation and drive, communication, conflict resolution. There's really very few situations where it can't be used. If you have other ideas of where you've used coaching, I'd love to hear them in the chat. But there's very few situations where it can't be used. And that's what I love about coaching. I just had a team recently that was struggling with managing differences. So I could have came in and said, here's how to manage differences. But there's a million articles on that online. Instead, we can ask powerful questions to see what's going on. That said, especially in the mental health field and behavioral health, there's a few situations I always like clarifying that is not appropriate for. If there's a crisis, we were just at a restaurant recently and one of the umbrellas caught on fire. It got too close to the heater and it caught on fire. I'm not going to coach in that situation and say, what are our options? How do we feel about that? What do we think we should do? No, I went inside. I said to the hostess, I need a fire extinguisher now. Please give it to me. Like in certain situations, we're not going to coach. Or if there's a safety concern, if an employee comes to you and says that someone is harassing them or something like that, or if there's suicidal ideation, we're going to give them that 988 number or whatever number is appropriate. So let's dive into some skills to coach. Active listening is one of the most powerful, simply being present with the other person. If you've heard of the OARS model, I'd love a one in the chat. My undergraduate degree was in health education. I'm a CHES. So a lot of people I thought would be familiar with this. And this, in another way, could really just be called coaching. You're coaching that individual. You're asking them open questions. Oftentimes, when we think of OARS, what happens is we're using it with clients. We might be using that with that end person. However, we can also use it with employees, and sometimes we forget that. I coach a lot of managers and leaders, and they're like, oh, wait, I do this all the time when someone comes in for maybe some diabetes education or HIV and AIDS education or sexual health. Why don't I do that with my employees? And then they realize this is such a powerful way to coach your employees and your team. So in team meetings, instead of just having an agenda, can we have a space where we can say, what do we want to discuss today? What are our options? When do we want to do that? The next, for people who aren't familiar with OARS, is affirmation. So to give some affirmations to appreciate and understand, maybe you handled that situation well. You demonstrated great resilience. I appreciate you for showing up for that conversation. And then we reflect. And a lot of times people think reflecting is just saying back what that person said, but it's actually confirming that you heard it correctly. Because someone might come to you and say, "Ooh, I'm overwhelmed with my workload." However, you may repeat back, "Oh, it sounds like you're really overwhelmed." And they might say, "No, I'm not overwhelmed." And it allows you to check that meaning and confirm what's going on. And I think this is one of the most powerful tools you can use in the workplace when you're in a staff meeting or a one-on-one, really making sure you're understanding the meaning of what your colleagues, what other people at work are saying, so that you're not just assuming what's going on. And then one of my favorites is summarizing as a coach. So you're saying all this. Is there anything else I missed? Or what else should we be discussing in our team meeting? Okay, here's everything you shared. Did I get that right? So really clarifying the conversation. And when we put this all together, it can be a really powerful conversation. What I recognize again is a lot of people, what will happen is they use this so much. They're such great preventionists. And then they go to lead their team and then they kind of forget all those great coaching skills they learned working one-on-one. The next that's going to build off this is curiosity. So it's diving below the surface. How do I get some new insights that maybe this person hasn't had before? When I coach this individual, when I try and support them, what's something that maybe they'd never considered before? I have one rule when I work with people is they're not allowed to say I don't know during our conversations. And the reason why is I think of it like an iceberg. When I work with people, whether they're doing a training or we're coaching, there's maybe 10 or 20% above the surface they know. And then my job as their manager, as their coach, as the workshop facilitator is to reveal everything below the surface and help them. And oftentimes, as managers, as leaders, as colleagues, we just say, here's what to do, instead of asking questions to help them reveal everything below the surface. Because that person knows their situation way more than I do. Maybe, but they know so much more than me. And my job is to help them figure out what's below the surface. So by saying, okay, instead of I don't know, what do you know? How can I help you figure out the answer? How can I empower you to come up with some solutions? And what happens is sometimes we feel like these have to be really complex questions, and sometimes it can be really simple. I remember a coaching session I had recently was trying to be a better leader. I think I asked her 3 questions in an hour, and she said it was the most transformative conversation she had had. I just said, what else? What else? Can you tell me more? What's this really about? And oftentimes we just start on the surface. We start with this management stuff instead of slowing down and giving them that space to share what it's really about. They might come to you saying, oh, I'm overwhelmed. But is it really overwhelm or is it a confidence issue? Is it something else that's below the surface? And by asking questions, we can figure out maybe they're burnt out. Maybe there's something going on at home. One of my clients recently, one of their staff, every single day was 5 minutes late to work. And he kept saying, you need to be on time. You need to be on time. You need to be on time. And I said, what if you ask some questions? And he realized it was impossible for her to be on time to work because she had to drop her kids off at school. So by slowing down and asking questions, he was able to say, oh, let's just adjust your start time 5 minutes. And it sounds so simple, but until he asked those coaching questions and dove below the surface, he would have never learned any of that. So part of coaching, sometimes people assume it's just this talking and listening and asking questions. And I think that can be powerful. But then I think of, so what? We have all these insights, people learn new things. How do we transform that into action? Oftentimes, if we're managers or leaders, we might say, okay, here's what you need to do next, which can be okay. But if we want buy-in, if we think back to ORS, motivational interviewing, we have a lot of behavior change people on this call. Getting that individual's buy-in is going to be more important. And you also want to get that buy-in with your employees. Instead of saying, here's what you're going to do, or here's what I recommend, ask them that. What steps will you take? Who will hold you accountable? How can I help you? Now what? And a lot of this seems simple because I know we have a lot of preventionists here, behavioral health people. But we forget this sometimes when we're working with colleagues. It kind of goes out the window and we're like, well, let me go back to these basics. And when I'm training people, I train lots of people on coaching best practices. I say, let's make the questions as short as possible, as simple as possible, and they can be really powerful to unlock things that maybe this person didn't even realize. I'm curious as we're going through this, does anyone have a favorite question they love to ask? I know at the beginning we had broad questions to get our brains warmed up. Does anyone have a favorite coaching question they like to encourage their staff or empower them or get them thinking, whether it's any of these three, whether it's an active listening question you like, A curiosity question you like, a strategy. Ooh, Kathy, how will that make a difference? I love that question. It dives into the why. Emily, what do you need from me? Kayla, if you had a warning label, what would it say? Sarah, strengths base. What are your strengths? Angie, what would you like to see different? And I can tell this is a public health group, a health education group, a behavioral health. These are a lot of the same questions we would ask end users or clients or patients, and these can be used with colleagues as well. What do you want to see the outcome will be? I love these questions. So all these great questions we might have learned in school and our training programs, we can apply with employees and colleagues as well. In teams, in our team meetings. We can even say as a team, okay, what do we want our team outcome to be? And it sounds simple, but sometimes we skip those amazing coaching questions. So here's a few of the mistakes I see when training coaches. The first is being a know-it-all. Sometimes we feel, especially as managers, we have to have every answer. And instead, it can be really powerful to say, you know what, I'm not sure. Not that I don't know, but I'm not sure. What do you think? What are your ideas? How might you approach this? As a coach, a lot of people come to me and say, I have this conflict on my team, Kyle. What do I do? I've known you for 5 minutes, so I'm not really sure. You've known your team for 5 years. What do you think? What are your ideas? Why haven't those worked yet? And asking some powerful questions can get you below the surface and help people reveal more. The second mistake I give is sharing unsolicited advice. This is something I'm guilty of with my partner. He'll come home from work, say, here's all these things that happened at work, and I want to give advice. And I have to step back and ask permission. How can I best be of support? What do you need from me? And if I do have an idea, would it be helpful if I shared? And getting that permission and buy-in first, because sometimes people just want to vent. Yes, there's times we need advice, or times when we just want to vent, or we want someone to ask us some questions. And then the third, applying a blanket approach. Oftentimes, we'll coach everyone the same. I remember in my last role, I had 23 direct reports. It was a large team I managed. And at first, I just had this agenda for each one-on-one I had with people. And then I realized people need to be treated differently. I had one staff member, it was 8-minute one-on-ones. They were very quick, in and out. Another person would be like an hour, 90 minutes. We talked a long time. And realizing each person needed things differently. And something I learned over time was I need to customize it to people. Why is this important? Someone put in there. What does success look like? How will you know? And even need in our session? What would be helpful in staff meetings and customizing it? So we're going to go back to our original quiz. We have 2 minutes left, but my first question, which everyone already got right, but is coaching coach-driven, employer-driven? T for true, F for false. And again, research also shows, I was trying to find my book, that if we do a post quiz as well at the end, you're more likely to retain it. False, yes. So this is false. Everyone's right, it's false. It's really led by that individual. They're going to be in the driver's seat. I think of the coach as kind of like a co-pilot. They're in the passenger seat. They can say, here's some ideas I have. Let me ask some questions. But that individual ultimately has to be driving and doing the gas and brake. Any topic is appropriate for a coaching session, T or F. Lots of F's, yes. So while a lot of topics can be appropriate, we're going to see our situation today, an amazing coaching topic. There are certain situations, trauma, crises, and stuff where we want to be mindful of how we navigate it. ORS stands for Organic and Rich Starbucks. False, no, it's open questions, affirmations, reflections, summaries. All people should be coached the same way. False. We really have to customize it to each person. Everyone has things that they need that are different. And then finally, true or false, Kyle and JV are Six Flags annual pass holders. False, Disneyland. We just went last weekend for Valentine's Day and it was amazing. False. Love it, Tracy. So here's my information if you want to stay connected. I will be around for the rest of the hour. But I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, so I'd love for you to hang out there. And then my email's there if anyone has questions. And we have 3 seconds, so thank you so much. And yes, Sarah, there will be the PowerPoint. It's uploaded in iEcho.